I ask Honain to please join Herbert on the stage with your panelists for the... It's not a last panel, sorry. The panel discussion is called, will Bitcoin continue to be the poster coin for crypto, or will others eventually overtake it? Please support, give a round of applause.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, testing. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I am sure the food was really good and some of the people are still eating. My name is Anand. Sorry,
yeah.
Can you? Okay. My name is Anand Nasir. I'm the head of content for CryptoVest.com, and it is my pleasure today to be moderating this exciting panel with some amazing people. The topic is really appropriate today. I think it concerns everybody and anybody who has any interest in cryptocurrencies. We're going to discuss whether Bitcoin is going to remain the poster coin, the main coin for leading the cryptocurrency revolution, or will it be replaced by something else, whether it's a coin, whether it's a decentralized coin or something else. So before we begin the discussions, I'm going to ask our panelists to kindly introduce themselves so we understand where they're coming from, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you. Something you want to add?
So, I'm Samson Massey.
Closer to you.
Ras.
I'm Samson Massey. I am the advisor for CGCX Exchange in Singapore, cgcx.io. And I also I have a new project which is called Wow Workspace, which is in MVP mode. So I've been in the blockchain space for quite some time as a developer, and I'm also a marketeer. So we have quite a few challenges which I've been through with, and I look forward to a very healthy discussion on what Herbert has put forward. Let's go ahead.
What's up, people? My name is Edward. I'm the owner of the Beast platform. Yeah, I'm the owner of the Beast platform, which is an online blockchain review platform. I started my career as a blogger and a YouTuber, and personally this topic is very close to me. I've written many articles about it, so I've got some very interesting things to share with all of you. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Jason Fernandez. I'm COO and co-founder of AE Token. We're a blockchain-based affiliate marketing platform. I'm also a bi-weekly guest on the Crypto Now show where I discuss crypto matters. And I've been writing and speaking about blockchain and Bitcoin in particular since 2012.
Hi everyone, I'm Herbert. I'm the bitcoinman.com. So I've been around since 2010. Founded Crypto Chain University, the first library in the world for compiling blockchain research. And I was also, like I already introduced myself, but today I'm here speaking on behalf of Broctagon FinTech Group as well. And of course, with my handle, the Bitcoin Man, I'm of course going to be citing the Bitcoin itself. Yeah.
All right. So the theme today will circle around the fact that, as we know, Bitcoin is synonymous with crypto. When we think crypto, we think Bitcoin, and that's the case for people around the world. So there are some people who obviously believe that this is justified, that Bitcoin's dominance is due to some legitimate reasons, and there are others who believe that this will change. Perhaps soon, perhaps in a few years, but there are people on both sides. So today we'll kind of try and explore this topic further and get some insights from our panelists. I think it's appropriate to begin with the Bitcoin Man, and then I'd like to know, we'd all like to know what you think about the topic, why you think Bitcoin is in a dominant position, and why, if you think, it's going to stay in that position for the foreseeable future.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I guess everyone here is already familiar with Bitcoin itself and what it's stemmed out of, which is blockchain technology. Yeah, and the thing is, it has been here since 2010. Many critics have come and go, Many naysayers have also made their stand saying that Bitcoin is a fad, it's a bubble, it's going to disappear over the past 10 years now. So now the thing is, it's still here, number one, and it has proved to be the godfather, actually, of all coins, tokens out there. And in fact, if you notice, on Father's Day itself, for some reason, there was a major pump for Bitcoin. Yeah, and all the other altcoins all dropped. So it would seem like the market, the world, is sending us a message as well.
How would you define Bitcoin's dominance? When you say it's like the father or grandfather of all coins, what do you mean by that? What characteristics kind of make it dominant?
Like what makes it?
Yeah, what makes Bitcoin dominant? Like, how do you define that dominance?
Okay, I think dominance is it's very straightforward. We are all here to make money as well, same as the stocks, commodities, and all. So it's more about the trading volume of a certain token or coin, right? And right now in the market, Bitcoin easily holds 60% dominance of the whole entire market itself. So it's obvious what the market thinks about which token should be the number one token. And we're talking about regulations across the world that are all coming in to look into cryptocurrency. And the first thing they would invest in is Bitcoin itself before you can actually invest in altcoins. The one other, I would say, exception would be actually Facebook Libra. I'm sure all of us are aware that Facebook just recently came out with their own native token called Libra. So that one is something definitely up for discussion because it is one massive challenger, I would say, to Bitcoin itself.
Right, so we'll go to Jason now. Jason, you're the co-founder of AE Token, right?
Yes.
So you've created a token for yourself. When you create a new token, do you aim to kind of replace Bitcoin? Do you find a spot in the ecosystem somehow? So what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so our token is basically used within the affiliate marketing industry solely, for the most part. So we're not really competing with Bitcoin or any of these general purpose cryptocurrencies. But as far as general purpose cryptocurrencies are concerned, there's a reason why Bitcoin is king, and I think the reason mainly comes down to adoption. We hear a lot about on-ramps and off-ramps, and basically Bitcoin has the most on-ramps and off-ramps from pretty much all the cryptocurrencies. It's the most widely used cryptocurrency. Most people actually think it's synonymous with cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin is cryptocurrency. And it all comes down to how many places accept Bitcoin, how easy it is to use your Bitcoin. It's just the most dominant cryptocurrency. Also, if you just look at the hash rate is really high. It's something like 5 times what it was, at Bitcoin's height in 2000 when it was $20,000. And a high hash rate basically makes it somewhat immune to 51% attacks. So overall, not only is it safer, but it's also much better adopted than any other cryptocurrency. So that's why I think it's...
Right. So just for the audience as well, I'm sure people want to know, if Bitcoin is as dominant as you say it is, why would somebody create a new token? Why would you kind of try to compete in that very competitive space? Why not let Bitcoin take that course, add that functionality, and mature?
Right. So again, like I said, we're not competing with Bitcoin, but there is obviously a reason. Look, competition is always good. So whenever new cryptocurrencies come in, some of them are general purpose. So Monero is big on privacy. You have different reasons, sort of different main. So Ethereum, for example, is really big on smart contracts. Like that's why you use Ethereum over Bitcoin. So each of them has their own use case, which they particularly excel in. But as far as general purpose cryptocurrency is concerned, currently Bitcoin has nobody in its class. I mean, you brought up Libra, which everybody basically eye rolls because Facebook, the main thing to think about, to realize is that Facebook is not going to be able to operate Libra in India or China and Pakistan. And if you start subtracting all the countries, it's not able to work. We're talking like 2 or 3 billion individuals on the planet that will never have any access to Facebook coin.
Which would have been the main users, really.
Exactly. So, I mean, we're talking about, again, with Facebook, you have so many users in India. And one of the biggest things that we talk about when it comes to cryptocurrencies is banking the unbanked. And when you look at the countries like India and Pakistan where people are unbanked, you're not going to bank them because Libra doesn't work there anyway. And then if you could consider how difficult it's going to be for Libra to basically get through regulatory hurdles in every country that they're trying to, and whether is it even worth it? Is it even worth going through all that trouble when you're basically locked out of massive markets? I mean, I just think that it's such a long shot. I just don't see how everything is going to come together for them anytime soon.
Right, thank you. So Edward, you review coins on your platform, you've reviewed them in the past. So what is your take on Bitcoin's dominance and other coins in relation to that?
Well, this is the question I was speaking about with my panel with, is that what do you define as dominance? That's the main question I have. Is it the technology? Is it the trading pairs that it has on exchanges? Is it its price? Is it its usability? With the tech, I think in 5 years' time, all current blockchain technology is going to be, well, not worth our time really. There's going to be more advanced technology. Looking at sort of, adoption of monetary standards. We started with stones, then it was gold, then it was coins, then it was fiat. Then it was Bitcoin. So we're always adapting and looking for the next way. So moving on to sort of the technology, you go out into the outside world and you start trying to use Bitcoin. Yes, it's cool to buy, your next Lamborghini with it, but are you actually going to be able to buy a bottle of water with it? It's too slow. The merchant is going to have to wait for how many transactions, and sometimes that takes a day. They're not going to give you your small purchase until that's confirmed. So look, I'm not beating on Bitcoin whatsoever. I still believe there's no reason for exchanges to stop making it the main trading pair. So at the end of the day, it's going to be the most widely used cryptocurrency asset for the next 10 or whatever years. But I think adoption is adoption is the main key to cryptocurrency development, and that's why Libra coin, as everybody's saying, has a potential to sort of compete with it, because its adoption will be worldwide. Also, an interesting fact, I don't know, quite a few people don't know, Libra coin has a counteract token, which is called the investment token, and is given to all the supernode holders who invested into Libra. They invested like 10 million, I believe, and they all own this token. I don't think any of us will be able to get it, but that token has a strong possibility of actually competing in regards to price, that in my opinion. But yeah, that's just an interesting fact for everyone.
Right, so you think 5 or 10 years down the road, Bitcoin is at risk of being replaced by...
Well, yeah, because I can see the technology being completely replaced. So Bitcoin is might become just a standard, like gold, or store value.
So you don't think Bitcoin developers can keep up with the changing standards and pace?
Absolutely, they can, but they're not.
Right.
Oh, they no, I don't think so.
Right. So Samson, so you advise an exchange, CGCX, right? So
Yes.
what is your take on all these different coins and Bitcoin's dominance?
Okay, so Bitcoin, I don't fully agree with my panelists, and I don't disagree as well. But the fact is, the theory of evolution happens. Bitcoin has been the first step in this particular market, and which means we have seen everything evolve. Now, let me put it this way: in the audience, how many people had Nokia phones? Let's say a very popular model I had, 3310, right? Anybody remembers that? Yeah. Right. So are you? Yeah. So exactly, that's what you said. I think when we look back at Bitcoin, probably in 3 years, probably I would have a few Bitcoins at home. That's exactly what that would look like. In the drawer. So what I'm trying to put forward here is, technology is good and it evolves. So Bitcoin has had the first chance. Now, we don't really know where it came from. It evolved. We don't really know what's going to happen to the blockchain. And don't take me wrong, because I'm not against Bitcoin, but exactly as other things happened, as technology evolved, now we're into the smartphone age. So, but Nokia 3310 was a beautiful phone. In fact, I used the 1610, if you remember that huge phone that we have to hang out here. And that was fantastic. It helped me with everything else I had to do. The job was done, and so does Bitcoin. But as we keep evolving, there might be technologies, there might be certain iterations of this product. We for sure know there are a lot of interesting stuff like Stellar, like EOS, like many other platforms, which are giving us a lot of avenues, a lot of flexibility. And Ethereum for sure has come to be a standard, especially for smart contracts. Now, there might be further things coming, and then, because what I can tell you is that I always keep my eyes open for what's coming up. So Bitcoin will remain, but till when, we've got to really, be on the watch out. But this push that we have received, this, the bull run of Bitcoin for the last few weeks, 4 to 5 weeks at least, that's been going on. This might, is this going to be the end of it? Or what's going to be the next?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I would just leave it there, and we'll continue discussion. But the fact is, this is food for thought. Is Bitcoin going to be adopted the way just because of this run, the technology, and there are a few more aspects to it?
So one of the things I wanted to point out is about patents and IP. So with a traditional company like Google or Yahoo, IP matters a lot because it's not possible for other people to come in and just copy the technology. So when there's something that happens which is unique with a particular company, that becomes its USP. Basically, suing a decentralized network for IP or patent violations is practically impossible. So basically, any cryptocurrency that comes in with some new feature that same feature can immediately be implemented in Bitcoin as well. And that's where adoption basically comes in, because when you have massive adoption, any new cryptocurrency that comes in and says, hey, let's try this, Bitcoin can come in and do that. And that small company is not going to be able to sue Bitcoin. Who are you going to sue, right? Because it's a decentralized network. And then when you have this massive amount of adoption, you already have something like 11 million people own at least 1,000 of a Bitcoin. That's a huge number, So when you have that massive adoption and you have the ability to basically rip off technology, first move imagination is really important in that situation.
Well, that is quite debatable. If you look at the technology part of it, you probably wouldn't be able to integrate every possible technology into Bitcoin blockchain. That's debatable. Yeah. I think everybody will agree with me.
Right.
So the point is, adoption will slowly, what I feel is, will wither away, because when I was just talking to somebody here at from Hashgraph. Now, we're looking at another new evolution of technology, which is interesting. Now, how does that integrate? I was actually, when I got a habit of pulling out scripts from GitHub and getting onto it, just running a node and seeing how it works. So, Hashgraph happened to be a beautiful technology that I looked at, but it was still developing. So, almost like over a year and a half or something, I left it. And I realized lately that it's worked. Now, I don't really know if it integrates with the Bitcoin blockchain. If it does, and what beautiful things you can create on some other technologies coming up. Will it integrate? That's a bigger question.
Well, you look at Sedgwick and you look at Lightning as these scaling solutions. These things are like when Bitcoin had an issue with scaling, Sedgwick came out, Lightning Network came out. So it's something that's constantly evolving and things that can change. And all you need is 90% consensus.
Yeah, so Herbert, what did you want to add to that?
Okay, it's very good all our panelists here are all talking about technology itself. For Bitcoin itself, there are many school of thoughts. Some people say it's a technology, which it is. It came out with blockchain tech. Yeah, but now the thing is, some people also see it as a store of value. Yeah, like gold. So we have Bitcoin Cash, we have Bitcoin SV, and more. Yeah, and we're talking about technology. Over the years, what happened is, not just Bitcoin, we have new entrants like Ethereum, and even more. For example, the latest on scaling is Ethereum. For example, they brought about sharding way before Ethereum did. Yeah, and even more recently, we have this guy called Bram Cohen, who came out with this new consensus algorithm called proof of space and time. So Bram Cohen himself is the founder of BitTorrent. And we all know that BitTorrent is basically the company that brought about illegal downloads and all. Yeah, so it's the father of decentralization. Way before even cryptography came about, way before even cryptocurrency came about. So now the thing is, this guy himself, he came up with this theory of proof of space and time, which forces each block to be consistent. Yeah, and if you're familiar with proof of space, basically the more anybody with a hard drive can actually mine as well, can have access to the mining rewards. So, and the more people that actually can come on board to mine, what happens is it becomes even more secure. And Crypto Bees here, it's right. So that, the advent of technology, it's going to bring about more and more cryptocurrencies. And we have seen that for the past 10 years. However, who has the main dominance in the market right now? It's still Bitcoin. Okay, now the thing is, yes, all my panelists have a point as well that we do not know if Bitcoin is here to stay. But what I can ask the audience is, who here, for example, still has money? Like money on you, fiat. Yeah, okay, so the thing now is fiat has been around for the past 50, maybe even 100 years. Okay, way back before was gold. And is gold still here? It is. It's still being traded. So it's about how it's going to evolve. This storage of value, it's simply just going to evolve. And I believe Bitcoin is still going to be here to stay, given that the forefathers have already broken ground for new tech to come. Yeah, and it's always still going to fall back towards respecting the father.
Right, I'll come to Edward and I'll say, so Jason was defending, he was saying that every technology or every new functionality that a coin brings can be brought on to Bitcoin, right? But you said the developers aren't really doing that. So can you kind of explain why that's not happening? What are the hurdles?
See, it's a difficult question for me. I'm not really tech savvy, I would say. But I think people are looking, so many projects we're discussing are not Bitcoin focused projects. Right. People are focusing on not developing the Bitcoin blockchain or Bitcoin itself, but creating new technology to be better than Bitcoin. Now, most projects aren't trying to do that, as we said, ERC20 tokens, utility tokens, that's what people are focusing on. But there are projects out there like Hashgraph, for example, which are focusing on actually giving it the availability to be used in the outside world. So yeah.
Jason, why would you then? Do you have any insights into why that's not happening? Why that development isn't really taking place?
Actually, I think it is happening. It's just happening slower. I mean, ultimately, when you make changes, you need to have something like 90% consensus, right? So everybody has to kind of agree. And in a lot of cases, it's not easy to get everybody on the network to agree because they're essentially making money on the system the way it is. So they don't really want to mess with the golden goose. That's one of the that's one of the things that you have to think about. But I think overall, Bitcoin will be able to absorb a lot of these new technologies that are coming out and improve itself in the way that it transacts. And I think we've seen Bitcoin evolve, and I think we're going to keep seeing it evolve.
Right. So Samson, that was a beautiful example with the phones. But in effect, when you're saying that Bitcoin will be replaced by something else, you're saying that something that is worth around 200 billion right now, and like Herbert pointed out, a 60% market cap, has to be replaced by something which is going to be equally valuable or more. How do you think that would happen? Because if you look at number 2, that's Ether, the market cap is around 30 billion right now. So that's like a 6-time difference. How can something, or a coin, for example, or a new technology catch up with that kind of a range? How can that happen?
So I'm a very strong believer in predictions, data-based predictions, and well, I wouldn't have talked about this probably 10, 12 years ago. But again, I would give you some practical examples, not really very technical, but something which everybody can understand. Now, just to tell you, the most valuable company in the world for over 30 years was a company in petroleum sector called ExxonMobil. Now, everybody thought that this is going to be, exactly as my panelist said, a gold standard for probably forever. Because how could you replace a valuable company like ExxonMobil? Apple does it, and it takes it over by many times. Now, how is it possible? Now, that is what makes me a very strong believer that a 200 billion market cap is probably peanuts. I'm very serious when I'm saying that. It really means that whatever comes next, just imagine the market cap of Facebook. How would that ever be possible? It's mind-boggling. And look at all the unicorns that we talk about, the Ubers and the Airbnbs of the world. How did this come about? The fact is, what we're looking at, and exactly I would agree with you, a granddad, of course, remains a granddad. The new generation takes over and makes things better. And probably what they will do is far more valuable than you could, so looking back, let's say that we are sitting down at this point in time in probably 2030, and we are talking about Bitcoins. it'll be exactly, as you said, the gold standard. So nobody's carrying gold in their pocket. That was a very good example. So we would say this was the Bitcoin standard, and we have come this far.
So I'll challenge you a little bit on that, because you did mention gold, and that's a really interesting point, because remember that fiat was backed by gold, the US dollar was backed by gold for a while, and it no longer is. So yes, gold still exists, and yes, fiat still exists, but they've both evolved to the point where essentially fiat is completely disconnected from gold. So you're going to have evolutions, and you're going to have changes. You mentioned Nokia, and Nokia is an interesting example. Nokia started off its existence as a paper company. They were making paper pulp, and they moved over to technology, and they were not fast enough to understand the smartphone revolution. So for a long time, they were basically just putting out these feature phones, and that's basically why they failed. And one of the reasons also is it comes down to IP. What they ended up partnering with Microsoft for, that's obviously a bad decision, and they started having Windows phones. But when they make partnerships like that, that's sort of the things that affected them negatively. But Bitcoin, on the other hand, they can take what's good about cryptocurrencies and actually implement it, because they have the user base, a massive user base that's actually going to put that into implementation right now. And actually having another company, you pointed out 200 billion is peanuts. So look at the size of Microsoft. It's like a $1 trillion company or something. So yes, it is. But for somebody to actually overtake that, they're going to have to go through. You think about how much trouble Bitcoin took to get to the adoption it is today, and then you imagine all these other companies are like that much farther behind. The fact that imagining that they're going to make up in that shorter time, is unlikely. I'm not saying it's not possible. I do believe it's possible, but it's unlikely in the near term. That's what I would say.
Is this price you're talking about? Overtaken price, yeah.
Yeah.
Edward, what do you have to add to that? Because you review a lot of currencies. So do you think that it's very difficult for any new currency to kind of bridge, meet that gap, or is it just not possible?
Well, I like I said, I think in regards to adoption, it's companies such as Facebook. We keep on saying this, but they're going to have more adoption because more people will use it.
More than Bitcoin, you mean?
Absolutely. But is it going to become the main trading pair? I really don't think so, because obviously a lot of people are investors and traders in this industry, and we all go to exchanges, and that's what this industry is currently really built on. It's not really built on world use. That's what we're trying to get it to, and we all hope it will be like that in the future. But at the moment, it's traders and investors, and to overtake that, Bitcoin as being the main at the moment, I don't see it happening at all.
Right. Herbert, I'd like to ask you.
Okay, so now the thing is, I really like what Samson said, that actually Bitcoin right now, the trading volume now, like I mentioned earlier in my speech, right now the whole entire crypto market daily trading volume is only 5 billion. Yeah, where Brocktagon is where our expertise is in forex. Yeah, and we are seeing 5 trillion traded daily. That is 1,000 times bigger than crypto. And you're right now crypto boys think they're big, but actually it's peanuts still. Yeah. So now the thing is, what we do in our company, like I mentioned earlier, we introduce a new platform whereby we try to make crypto mainstream. How so? By actually letting all these forex traders, the traditional boys that are trading in the market on currency specifically, giving them access to crypto. And crypto, as you know, is digital currencies where these traders are actually good at. And so with this, crypto can actually go mainstream. And now the thing is, companies like us, that are actually bridging the gap right now, we are only concentrating on Bitcoin. So what will happen to the Bitcoin trading volume as compared to the other cryptocurrencies out there? Yeah. So now the thing is, there will be many more new entrants coming. Like I mentioned earlier, why I say Libra can actually make a punch is because they can undercut banks. Like banking the unbanked that you mentioned earlier. It's a very good point. But now the thing is, for those that are aware out there, the unbanked people that do not have a bank actually form up to maybe even 60% of the whole entire world's population. I'm talking about people in India, Pakistan, China, and more. So now the thing is, all these people are actually on Facebook. And if they do actually adopt Libra, that will give them a punch straight away to the central banks. And the central banks, as we are all aware, if you do your research further, they have already invested into Bitcoin in huge amounts. They have been secretly stashing it up.
Sorry, very quickly, what I'm sure everybody else is really excited about, when currencies like Libra go to the market, they're sort of in direct partnership with Coinbase. So what's going to happen is all these people, unbanked people, they're going to go to Coinbase to cash out, and potentially they're going to start investing into Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and that's going to drive the market forward. And I think the recent push, along with some other news, has been exactly that. So it's really exciting at the moment.
One of my concerns, sorry, Justin, what did you want to say?
No, I was just going to add that the reason, one of the things that's really worked out well for Bitcoin over the past couple of weeks is Facebook announced Libra, and that got a lot of people interested in blockchain and cryptocurrency, but there was no, you couldn't buy Libra, right? So what are you going to buy? Well, you buy the king, Bitcoin. So that's what pops it up. That's what gave it a huge boost. But I think it's obviously staying that way, so that's a good sign.
So do you guys see it as a medium of exchange or a store of wealth? How do you, like, for example, you're supporting Bitcoin. What do you guys see it as? Just a quick answer.
So it's a great store of value, but it isn't so much when it's volatile, right? As long as it goes up, it's cool, but when it goes down, that's when you have a major problem. But I think right now it's going to work as well, work really well for transactions.
Robert, do you think it's a good store of value?
Okay, so about Bitcoins as a store of value, it definitely is. I am a believer of it. I've also been storing myself, massive hodler. So the thing now is, okay, we all believe, number one, okay, there's many fractions of school of thoughts in terms of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And if you track back even further, this whole entire Bitcoin actually stemmed forth from cryptographers. Yeah, people that studied cryptography, and even before cryptography, we are talking about people that like cypherpunks, people that wait, I'm sure the panelists know about cypherpunks as well. So there's this guy Timothy C. May that actually passed on earlier this year. He was one of the leading, most notable cypherpunks, yeah, that actually wrote about Crypto Manifesto itself. Yeah, and because of that, I was actually very driven by it for privacy. And I believe also Satoshi Nakamoto himself is a cypherpunk. Yeah, the whole entire digital currency written with cryptography was done with that idea. Yeah, and now the thing is, as we progress with technology, Bitcoin is still using proof of work, the consensus algorithm, which is, in my opinion, even though I'm the Bitcoin man, I am saying that this technology it's already passé. Yeah, in fact, it's something that I said in my debate with Roger Ver. I told him that Bitcoin Cash should stop saying that they're Bitcoin, the real Bitcoin. They should instead, upskill, their consensus algorithm. Yeah, I'm talking about the new entrants like Zilliqa that did sharding that made them thousands of times faster than Ethereum. So now the thing is, there's many other such technologies coming up. Yeah, and I'm really glad actually during the fall of Bitcoin last year, the crypto winter, what happened was I saw a lot of projects maturing. Number one, they were all focused towards developing the blockchain technology and not just the volatility and the storage of value, but the tech itself, and that is what is very valuable. And whatever companies that you see still thriving through the crypto winter, I say that they are safely to say they are good investment. Yeah. So the people here on the panel also, if you're part of a token like yourself, yeah, well done to you. And in fact, I believe as the bull is coming, many more entrants, new tokens will appear to try to challenge Bitcoin. But whether or not they will actually succeed is another question. Like I mentioned, the one that I see that may make a whole punchline to the market is actually Libra itself, for many other reasons that we can actually discuss on a debate itself.
Right, so in saying that Libra has a very good, solid potential, I think all of our panelists are agreeing with that. Are we also kind of agreeing that Bitcoin has a challenge when it comes to user-friendliness? Because one of the major advantages of Libra is user-friendliness. It's going to be available on our apps. We'll be able to transact it very freely. So do you think that's a big hurdle Bitcoin has?
So I think that certainly that's one of the issues, but I think that on the back end, that's on the back end, right? But the front end and the UI UX thing, that comes down to private companies that are doing that, and I think that's going to be solved much better over time. Is it not working? Battery is low. What was the question? Anyway, go ahead.
No, well, the question keeps on revolving around how do you see it. So if it's use case ability, I just don't see it happening in the real case world. Initially, I'm a trader and an investor, and I'm a big holder just like yourself also. And the only reason I've ever used Bitcoin is to hold it. So obviously I used it for exchanges, but even when I'm using it for trading, I'm usually using Ethereum because it's quicker to send to my Coinbase. So,
But if it's a store of value, and like Samson said, like phones, they outdate. So it's okay if my phone goes, outdated, but if my store of value goes outdated, I'm kind of like, losing all my money. So how are you guys, comfortable putting money into that? I think everybody wants to know. How are you comfortable using it as a store of value when it is something that is likely to, at some point, go out of date?
well, it's what happened to gold.
Sorry, could I actually cover what you mentioned about the user friendliness?
Sure.
It's a very, very important point actually, because how many people out here has Bitcoin? A raise of hand. Okay, great. So how did you all actually got your first Bitcoin? It's through crypto exchanges, right? Or any other means? Mining, very good. Any more? P2P, very good. Okay, so there's OTC as well. Okay, so now the thing is, there is still very few means, I would say, to get your hands on Bitcoin. Yeah, right now we have Coinbase, Gemini that you can use fiat to crypto. But now the thing is, back in 2010 when I was first there was no exchanges. Exchanges only came about 2013, 2014. So at the point of time, you would have to hunt down a miner. Like you would have to find, computer scientists that had those big mining rigs, and then you actually cut a deal with them to buy Bitcoins. Yeah, so I remember those days when it was only about $30, and then I had to cut a deal to buy it at $80 instead. So it was massive hassle. Like it was a OTC that was overly marked up. So in the market right now, we are seeing like localbitcoins.com closed down across the world, whereby it's no longer available. Now the
Cash transactions, only for cash transactions.
yeah. Okay. So now the thing is, with Libra, it's a whole different ballgame altogether. Everybody has a Facebook account. Should they just open up and then the next thing you link it to your credit card? And boom, you have Libra tokens. And that's something that scares the banks. Yeah, right now, regulators across the world, they are speaking out very, very quickly. Everyone's grabbing a mic now, getting on stage and speaking up against Libra. Google the news now. We have France, we have Europe, especially America as well, that are all stepping forward to, in a way, condemn Libra already. Yeah.
Well, one of the important things to think about is like how many people want their Facebook account linked to all their transactions, and that just seems really, really odd. I mean, also the fact is they're going to have to KYC people, and that's going to be something that. So essentially, you have your entire history, all your friends, everything linked together with all your transactions, and your transactions are public. That just seems like Big Brother to me. I can't imagine people would be excited about doing that.
I just see them blocking your account and just stopping all your money.
Samson, what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, so we're talking about the stored value of Bitcoin and the value of Bitcoin actually. Now, I would probably throw two questions to the audience to really think about. As Herbert actually just pointed out, what is the real value of a Bitcoin? Let's talk about that. I mean, we don't really have to answer this question, but if you're an investor, you could ask yourself, is it $80 or $30? Right? It might be anything.
It's 11,100.
No.
I mean, it's whatever the market says, right? That's what gives it its price.
I'll come to the second point. The first thing is, the real value of a Bitcoin is what you understand it is. When about a year and a half ago, some of my friends who were non-technical, they don't understand technology, they came to me and they told me, Sam, I have bought a Bitcoin. I said, perfect. But what is a Bitcoin? I was trying to understand, and they told me that this is kind of a currency and it's really going up, so I'm investing in it. I said, do you understand this? They said, no, I just got it from somebody. Somebody came around and gave me this. How much is it? $6,000. They bought it. After that, it went to 19, and they were happy stocking more. And I was told that this will go to $50,000 for a Bitcoin.
Told the same thing.
right? So I was like a bit surprised. But the point of discussion here is, what is the real value of a Bitcoin? So now that is what. Now the second part of that discussion is, and the food for thought is, all these markets are driven by sentiments. Now, if sentiments will drive the markets, Jeff Bezos can lose $1 billion in a minute, and he can gain a few more in another minute. So, but you're not the person who's going to be on the receiving end of that, probably on that level. But if it goes away, it's going to really make a lot of difference. So my simple submission always is whether, if you understand the technology well, and do you marry it with sentiments, that is what the value of Bitcoin will be. But when we get to the more mature stage, as I told you, if it's 2030 now, if you look back, you'll be able to see how far we have come. So my habit is always looking back in the rear view, looking where we came from. So what I'm talking about now is we are still in that stage where we are evolving. Bitcoin obviously has been a granddad. It will remain so. It will go down the history as something that it kicked off the whole revolution. It's a fantastic age that we're living in. We're looking at things happening, but something is coming along, and it should be pretty big. That's what I want to like to put it here.
It's a great thing that you mentioned that. I mean, okay, at this very point of time, okay, now we are back to the main topic actually, which is the theory of decentralization. What Bitcoin is all about. It's all about decentralization, whereby we take the power from the central banks, and from the likes of all the giant FSIs out there, the financial institutes. We are taking the power back to the people. And you're also right, whereby the community sentiments actually are the market forces now. Because now the thing is, central banks, okay, right now, fiat. Who says fiat is what value? It is the central banks. The central banks put out that number, and what happened next is the financial institutes, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, will take that price.
I'll interject on that one.
Yeah.
The value of a currency actually depends on its transactional value. So which means if US dollar transacts, it's got a value. If a Vietnamese dong does not transact on the level, it will not be called a US dollar.
Okay, so now the thing is, digital currencies are also...
I'm talking about currency, the valuation, the way you transact it. The valuation is based on the acceptance for international trading.
Okay.
And Bitcoin does not transact that way.
Okay.
Something else is going to... And will it be Libra? I'm skeptical.
Okay, so about the transaction, we are seeing the transactions on a daily, like I mentioned, 5 billion daily. So, okay, it's still small, right? But now the thing is, I'm comparing it to the Forex market, the traditional one that I was mentioning. So they will put forth that number and, people start trading that value. So now the thing is, who is doing that for crypto? And no one's doing that. No one's putting out a number and everybody trading at that. So now the thing is, all the traditional boys are actually still very skeptical of this Bitcoin. Because it is completely different from what they are experienced for the past 100 years, literally. So right now, where decentralization is happening, now, like the value of it is actually up to the people. The more people buy in, the stronger that currency becomes. So imagine now, I'm saying like the world, maybe 5-10% people have Bitcoins, but what happened when it becomes 100%? Right? And now the market forces are saying they're determining how much Bitcoin is worth. It's no longer up to that one person in that central bank to say. It's so
I will come to that. So people are buying Bitcoins, but what are they doing with it? Okay. So the point is, if you're not transacting, if it has no transactional value, how do you raise the value of that particular coin?
It's mostly speculation.
But the fact is, how long will this stay? How long can you take this, right? So the major question is, what happened to Bitcoin previously last year was because there was no transaction. If it was transacting, I heard a lot of stories about the Fed coin coming in. We didn't see one, but the fact is, if transaction happens on the level, if US dollar becomes a coin, it will immediately have an impact, and which means you'll be able to transact. The value will be real. You can trade with it. It becomes a commodity, and it works. So that is how it will go.
I'll add to this so that you can answer the whole thing. So speculation is happening. People are speculating. So in addition to what Samson said, as regulators tighten their grip around cryptocurrencies in general, speculators will have to kind of move out a little bit. So what do you think that's going to? How do you think that's going to impact Bitcoin's value and price as well?
Okay, so back to Samson. It's true. If nobody's transacting it, how can you actually determine the value? Okay, to address that question, I want to track back. Does anyone in the crowd actually know why Bitcoin became 20,000 in 2017 December? Yeah. Okay. What? Yeah, hype, FOMO. Okay, but who is doing this hype? Yeah. But okay, all this hype, ICOs came about only after December 2017 when Bitcoin was at its height. Okay, so now the thing is, a team of analysts, myself as well, we dig deeper, we track the web traffic, exactly what's happening on the web. We found that all the, pardon the language, but all the porn websites traffic were actually redirecting to Bitcoin faucets. Bitcoin faucets are actually websites that dispense free Bitcoin. Yeah? Who doesn't like free Bitcoin, free money, right? So the thing is, those Bitcoin faucet, tracking back, do you know what is the most visited website in the world for blockchain? Very, very common guesses, Coinbase, Cointelegraph, Coindesk. But now the thing is, you put the web traffic of every single website together, and they still lose to this one website. It's called freebitco.in, free Bitcoin. Yeah, so why is it freebitco.in is to challenge the Google algorithm so that they can actually, go past, undercut it. So now the thing is, this website was seeing so much web traffic because they were dispensing out free Bitcoin. And what happened is, when you go up onto a website, you literally get free Bitcoins, but in return for performing some actions. And what are these actions? You actually have to register an account on an online casino that only accepts Bitcoin. And what happened during this period of time, more and more people started buying into Bitcoin. Yeah, and the thing is, many copycats started entering the market, and it mutated out of control. And the thing is, suddenly all these websites were all doing this free Bitcoin, and then it became massive. Yeah, I believe everyone in the crowd don't know about this because you haven't visited porn sites, right? So, okay, anyhow, the thing is, if you really go deep and track the traffic, you would actually see that happen. And you will realize that one of these main drivers is actually the owner of Satoshi Dice. In 2012, it was already around, but it went viral in 2017. So right now, Satoshi Dice was bought over recently and only accepts Bitcoin Cash. So we all know who the owner of Bitcoin Cash is. So he's one of the online casinos. So now the thing is, we all know, now knowing the background, the history of how Bitcoin is actually being transacted in the background, what happened is when Bitcoin was finally reached its height, it changed owners. And now the new owners are actually central banks. And now the whole entire dive, they dropped in the whole 2018, it happened because the new owners of Bitcoin did not know how to do this black hat marketing through porn sites and Bitcoin faucets. And that's why we saw a whole stagnant.
The largest holders of Bitcoins are the Winklevoss brothers. They're the largest holders, actually.
Possible? Okay, so
they're documented. They own almost 25% of the Bitcoins.
Okay. So the thing is, if you notice, the price started going up in May, right? And it happened straight after my debate with Roger Ver. And what happened was I reminded him of the Bitcoin faucets, literally, and the online casinos. And what happened is you go to bitcoin.com and blockchain.com now, owned by Roger Ver. 10 new Bitcoin online casinos have just been opened. 10 over the past 2-3 months. And we saw the price shooting up. And I believe it's going to continue as long as the owner of the Bitcoin casinos continue stirring the market, So if you ask my prediction today, I would say Bitcoin would easily hit 50,000 at the end of this year. Yeah, put that on record, on video.
Sure, I'll be the first guy to buy your bitcoins. Let's put it that way, okay? Right, so let me also hit a particular interesting aspect here of the discussion is blockchain was supposed to be a P2P connection,
Payment, right.
right? That's how you transact. Why do we need regulators? I don't know, but I'm a
Well, we don't need them. Nobody wants them around, but they're there.
No, but the fact is,
the thing is, if you want to operate in a country, you have to basically deal with the regulations. Otherwise, you know.
Yeah, but what sorts of fear? So probably this is something that we usually don't talk about. I think the two people transacting on the devices have no fear. The reason they can transact, the only fear is the government's losing something in between, and they're the taxes, the revenues, and that's why the banks are skeptical about transactions. So I think as the technology evolves, blockchain will get back to its original form. Bitcoin blockchain probably doesn't have, and as you rightly said, most of the Bitcoin blockchains which have been altered, they are not really the Bitcoin blockchain so-called. They have really not been owning their original form, which means we are into the next phase of evolution for Bitcoin. And I think the technology will be moving further from there. And finally, what we're going to end up is going back to the original, which means the transaction will happen with no interference, and that's what I foresee. This is exactly what blockchain will come back to.
Exactly as Craig Wright saw it many years ago.
But I really like what you said. It will go back and talking about the governments thing about it. Bitcoin isn't really governed, is it? We can all own it. Governments do try to ban it, but you can still open up a wallet using a VPN. With new cryptocurrencies coming out, governments are able to ban it because there's companies behind those currencies. Most projects will have a company behind it. Also, I'd like to add, if you're looking to invest in Libra coin, don't. It's a stable coin. I know we've been talking about it.
Okay, so I actually have to disagree with you there. I'm the Bitcoin man, and I actually want to represent Bitcoin as well. And I want to say that we, like the people out there, actually welcome regulators. Yeah. In fact, when the regulations was starting to set in, leading out from different countries across the world, from America, Japan, Korea, and even Singapore and Malta. And in fact, I would say Singapore is very, very forefront in this sphere. They actually were among the first in the world to actually started regulating the sector. In fact, when they
Yet. Ultimately, all transactions are going to be mostly digital. So moving from fiat to crypto will be practically transparent because you're not going to see what happens in the back end. You're just going to see the money moving.
But when you say crypto, do you mean Bitcoin? That's what we're trying to discuss here.
Well, practically.
Right.
I mean,
I would also like to add, fiat currency is actually digital. So you know, so you could actually just put
but
it
it still costs a lot of money to move it.
Yeah,
so it doesn't really help that it's digital. It just helps that, you know.
Right, but the fact is that crypto will be the new fiat. That's how it will work, and you will have those hash numbers, and that's how the transactions will happen. Trust me, I'm not against bitcoins, but the fact is that I'm looking at the evolution to the next level, how things will move, how it will start looking, and I think it looks quite rosy to me that we have been through this particular phase. 50,000 or not is a different figure because we don't really have attached value to it. There's no transaction. That's been my understanding of this whole aspect of it. But what is the real value? But whatever currency will pick up a transactional value, circulation, the way it will happen, mass adoption will take place on that. That's what my take is.
Edward, do you want to add something? Okay, so one more question I wanted to ask you guys. What happens when all the Bitcoins are mined? How does that change the dynamic? What happens then? I mean, it's 2140, I think it's 100 something years away, but then if you're thinking that Bitcoin will continue to evolve and stay relevant, what will happen 120 years from now?
There's going to be other mechanisms to ensure basically that miners still get, they won't be called miners, of course, because they won't be mining anything, but basically whoever takes care of the transaction, there'll be other mechanisms to make sure that, they get paid.
What about like supercomputers? And they say that they will break the mining algorithms. How would that work?
Well, it'll
100
get
years, I mean, that's a very long time.
The more difficult it gets, the more difficult it gets for everybody, right? I mean, there's going to be other people that have access to the same technology.
Okay, so tracking back first, the next mining reward halving for Bitcoin. It's going to happen next year. So 2020 is going to be a very exciting year actually. Libra is going to be launched fully in 2020 as well. So what I can say is start hodling your Bitcoins because the price is definitely going to shoot. That's number one. And number two, okay, back to the fact that when all the Bitcoins have been mined, which is 100 years or so from now. So now the thing is, when that actually happens, Bitcoin will already be stabilized. Yeah, and I would see major corporations that have massive amount of Bitcoins taking over the world, maybe even being the new organizations that are controlling the world. They are no longer countries now, but organizations. Of course, that one is a whole different theory to debate about. Now, the thing is, when that happens, these organizations would have access to cloud data. And not just that, they will also have access to more, even supercomputers, all the mainframes from your Z series, IBM and all. So now the thing is, these guys will be able to take over the mining on behalf of, to keep Bitcoin going. Yeah, so it will evolve definitely as we speak. Even as I'm speaking this right now, it might sound crazy, in fact, you know, to have organizations taking over the world. But look at Apple, for example. How much they have right now can easily overpower any lesser country out there. Yeah.
Right, right. So it seems like we have a divided house here. So I'll kind of try and wrap it up soon because this is a discussion I think we can have forever, like the whole day, and it won't finish. So I'll ask two of these people, Edward and Samson, the question that if you think, and correct me if I'm wrong, you believe that Bitcoin is in a good place right now, but it can't stay there forever. It has to be replaced by something better, something else. Whether it's Libra, whether it's something else, it remains to be seen. What would you do with your money right now? Where would you put it then, given this perspective of yours? Where should everybody's money be in your view? Should we just keep it in fiat? Should we put it in Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, some other coin? What should we do? How do we secure our wealth right now? Because that is one of the biggest concerns, you know, that's one of the use cases for crypto. I mean, we're here to make money also and protect our wealth. So what should we do?
Well, the discussion is about Bitcoins, but I would hate to put in something else in between there. But for me, you know, if I'm looking at investing my money, I'll probably look at Ripple. So, yeah, so but that explains that I'm maybe not a Bitcoin guy. I'm more of a self-executing smart contract person. So I look at the value that I get out of it, and I think I'm looking at transactions. So I don't see Bitcoin adoption really going. And my advice always has been that the moment it hits 10,000, which it did, it's better to offload Bitcoin right away. You never know what happens tomorrow morning.
Okay, Edward.
Well, I can't give financial advice, but 100.
So none of this is financial advice. We will not be held liable for this.
But yeah, 100% you should be investing in Bitcoin. You know, its ROI is phenomenal, and like I said, I think 50,000 is a low estimate in my opinion. Everyone's money, when the next bull run starts, which it looks like it's starting already, is going to go into Bitcoin. So
yeah, since you think it's going to be replaced at some point, what would you do then? Let's say, you know, somebody would invest right now. What would they? What would you do?
Well, right now you should be investing in Bitcoin.
Right.
The technology or the new projects have not been developed that I would say this is the next one. Right now it's Bitcoin, and that's what you should be investing in. Simple.
Right.
So yeah, I would agree. I would say Bitcoin as well. I mean, if you look at all the statistics of Bitcoin, everything from transaction speeds, total number of transaction, outputs are up as well. Every single number is much better than it was even back when Bitcoin was at 20,000. So if it was ever worth you know, if it's ever worth $20,000 or whether it's not, it certainly is now, and it's probably even worth $50,000.
The thing that's been happening is most of the Bitcoin purchases in the crypto winter have been happening OTC, which is not on the market. So more Bitcoins have been purchased in larger amounts, but we don't know about it through exchanges, and it's not being reflected on prices.
But if I'm forced to pick two other cryptocurrencies, I would probably say Litecoin and Dash. But that's only if I'm forced. Otherwise, I'd say Bitcoin.
Right.
Okay, so tracking back, actually, right now, if you see, due to geopolitics, we are seeing the US-China trade war. Okay, so now the thing is, across history, if you would see the past 10 years especially, Bitcoin, the ups and downs, you would actually see that every time there is some crisis happening in a country, example Venezuela, Bitcoin actually, there's a pump. Yeah, okay, now the thing is, we also see things like maybe even Cyprus, there was a war there. People were converting their money into, into crypto. Okay, now the thing is, many people out there still see real estate as a form of storage of value. You know, oh, it's better to invest in real estate, it's more stable. But now the thing is, real estate itself as well is a bubble in many different countries across the world. And now where a war might be brewing, or maybe even in future, the best, easiest form, safest form is still Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. Yeah?
Right. Just to add, I mean, Bitcoin has proven, at least recently, to be more and more of a safe haven asset. So when you had all the issues between the United States and China over the trade war, Bitcoin goes up. People put their money in Bitcoin. Both the Chinese people and American people basically put their money in Bitcoin. Yeah. Similarly, when all the stuff is going on in Hong Kong, again, you see exchanges in Hong Kong are trading at $100 premium for Bitcoin. So, and that has traditionally only happened for safe haven currencies like the Japanese yen. It has almost never happened for a cryptocurrency, and we're starting to see that happen. And that means that the smart money is going to Bitcoin, and I think that's where you need to be.
Yep.
Solid points. So I think we can take a few questions if the audience has any questions. Would somebody like to ask something from our panelists? You would? Okay. I'll give you. Okay.
Hi, I know it's already late, so people are like, I feel like the discussion was a lot more around the technology and more talking about people that are investing in Bitcoins rather than thinking about the larger masses. Because if we're talking about Bitcoin for generations, then you should think more about the consumer side. Meaning, if I buy online and I want to go and buy a dress or a shoe or anything basic, if I don't have the option of buying something with my Bitcoin or whatever cryptocurrency I have, it's worthless. So having a brand out there, there's Bitcoin everywhere and there's a hype, great. But in the end of the day, if we can't, make it more accessible, it won't stay. It's very simple. And right now, Bitcoin is the leading one because it had, I feel like it was there first, let's be honest. But still, all these years later, we still don't have it in every store. We don't have it like PayPal, like local wallets, no matter what they've done so far. And yes, it's technology, and yes, we want it faster and better, but it's like looking at a pie and looking at a very small aspect of it, which is investing, rather than you looking at the people that aren't banked. Okay, if you give them an actual option of buying something when they don't have the credit card or they don't have a bank, that's where the money is. That will make sure that it will be used for a generation until they come up with a new option, a new payment option out there. So what do you think about that?
Solid question.
So I think we talk a lot about on-ramps, and I think she made an excellent point about off-ramps, because it's really important to be able to actually spend that money for it to be actually useful. One of the ways that cryptocurrency companies are actually trying to bridge that gap is by using things like basically credit cards and debit cards that are essentially linked to your account. And once that starts happening, that's a massive game changer. The other interesting thing that's happened recently is a lot of exchanges and some other companies are actually giving you interest on crypto, and actually giving you interest on things like Bitcoin. So once you start being able to not only earn interest on your Bitcoin, but also being able to spend it using a credit card, like that's a game changer. That changes everything. Like, why even have a savings account if you can do everything like that?
But to be honest, I agree with you. One of the first points I made is the usability and the world use. It's just not there. And like I said to you, Samsung, my apologies, that the blockchain developers are not developing it to produce the wallets that you said. So that's why there is a possibility someone will take over. So good point, yeah.
I would say you're bang on the point. That's exactly what I was saying, the transactional value. You should be able to enjoy the rewards of your investment. And that is what drives sentiments, that feeling of, that feeling good, So again, this is related to Bitcoin, but if you look around very closely, one of the companies which is really doing it very well is the Dash community. So you see the kind of adoption coming in. Now, Bitcoin has failed to do it just because there is no leadership, because there's no one person who owns it. So that is the issue. So when we go back to the discussion, so adoption of Bitcoin, you know what I mean, right?
But
Okay,
where do you spend your Bitcoin?
Thank you. Okay, so about the Bitcoin, right? You don't want to use it for your daily transaction at this point of time. You want to hold and keep it. However, you want to use other cryptocurrencies, altcoins, that can be used on a daily basis, right? So we have many such crypto payment solution out there. One of them, example, Monaco, that has a credit card that you can swipe and make payments with. They have already integrated with Visa, MasterCard, things like that. So now the thing is, now the thing is, you have to understand that this whole entire blockchain industry is still very infant. It's 10 years old. Yeah. Now the thing is, it's crippled in a way by regulations across the world. It's still struggling. As much as it's been regulated, it has only started. Yeah, so now the thing is, it is a matter of time before the full regulations kick out across the world and you see it being utilized on daily transaction. But at this point of time, you want to hold on to your Bitcoins and not use it. Yeah, you want to hodl it. Yeah, you're right.
Amazon doesn't accept
Spend the Bitcoin SV. If anybody has Bitcoin SV, that's what you want to get rid of.
Get rid of today.
I would just add to what Herbert made a point. Actually, the blockchain technology was quite developed way back in 1967. If you go back to the history parts of it, you'll see that blockchain was already developed. It's only because of the absence of computing power, you couldn't solve algorithms, and that's the reason why it was held back for a while. Now, this very interesting gentleman, I don't really know who he is, but Satoshi Nakamoto comes around with a white paper. He gives you something, and right?
No, it's a joke. Good.
And then suddenly things happen. The fact is, we have computing power in the palm of your hand. You can solve a complete algorithm. So that's how it works. So things started picking up. Now, going back again, if you really have to keep your Bitcoins behind and use something else, which means that you are again getting a blank note from some of the Federal Reserve and you're printing notes, right? So it looks like that. Why don't you use the currency itself? So you don't really need Bitcoins at all. So the idea is anything that will help you transact will become the new standard. It will become a new norm. And that's how it's going to work.
Okay.
Okay,
To wrap it up.
Okay, you want to add something? No. Okay, anybody else has any questions? Okay, you have a question. Shaheen? Shaheen?
can we have the mic?
Can we toss the mic?
Hold on. I will give it to you.
Catch.
Somebody get the man a mic.
No, your mic. Where's the mic?
Is it ours?
Better? Okay. First, thank you, panelists. It's been a fascinating talk. One thing none of you just mentioned to her question, though, very interesting. If you've ever paid attention to the gold bug channels, that exact question comes up all the time. Is gold a currency? Is gold not a currency? And there are two ways to think about it. One, the people say, it's not a currency because I can't go to the grocery store and spend it. And the other side comes in and says, if it's not a currency, why does the central bank hold it? And why does it have an ISO currency code? The reason is because it's how you define a currency. As long as there is a use case for it, it's a currency. It doesn't have to be used for retail expenses. The euro was not used as a retail currency for a long time before it was actually printed and became an actual payment currency. So that's just my take on that. None of you guys.
Wow, you're spot on. Actually, you answered it perfectly. Okay.
Here's my second question for the group. Now, I want to move on. Here's a scenario for you. Okay, this is a hypothetical scenario, and you can believe me or not believe me, but I have reasons for proposing this scenario. The future comes along, and what we find out is artificial intelligence, okay, has become the primary use case for blockchain. The traditional mining that is going on right now has been replaced by machine learning algorithms. Okay, so instead of mining by doing these hashes right now, instead that proof of work is actually machine learning, and that has a real tangible value outside of the blockchain, but it's intricately linked to the blockchain. In other words, if you train an AI you've created some value on top of the blockchain that can then be used to improve the entire ecosystem. And this becomes a serious situation where it changes the fundamental nature of what the blockchain is. All the blockchain tokenomics, all the economics that we're currently thinking of as being the blockchain have been replaced. And instead, we're looking at it as an ecosystem of artificial intelligences that are trading between themselves as the primary layer, and of course you can run a few currencies or whatever problems you have on top of it, but that no longer really matters to the fundamental process. My question for all of you is, what happens to Bitcoin and all of these other currencies in the case that the fundamental nature of the blockchain changes?
Okay, so I think that's a real question for a real world situation. And the way it works is, the situation you're talking about of an AI managing another AI, developing something that it's not too distant. I can see that. It's already in process. There are a few organizations working on it, and which means that it absolutely, just in an hour, would make Bitcoin redundant. That's how it works. And that's why I said, it hits a mark, sell it off. That's what you got the value for. And exactly the question before was, if I can transact, get a value out of it. Now, let's look at the basics. The real reason why you need gold, right? It's a rare metal. There's not enough supply. And so when you have gold, you can print currencies based on the value you have decided. Now, when you have a cryptocurrency, it means that you have a unique hash, and which means it cannot be replicated. So it exactly solves the problem. So you don't need to back it up. You don't need anything to back it up. It's a unique one. You can't copy and paste one, right? It doesn't happen. That's the reason you have cryptography. And that's why you have a currency. So when AI starts developing another AI, which is going to be beyond human reach, it will totally, reorganize the way you deal with currencies. And that's exactly what I was trying to make a point. So you won't find Bitcoin anymore. You'll find a Bitcoin standard, which was left behind when you look back. And that's not too distant in the future. Let me reiterate that. And we will have probably a new standard, which I would not like to go actually delve into. But I know what I would like to talk about probably on another session. But this is very exciting. It's very interesting. And this is the next level of how cryptocurrencies will be transacted. So I've brought this about a different day. But interestingly, what is going on is that is exactly, you're spot on, this is exactly what's going to happen. And Bitcoin will not be the currency that we'll be dealing with. That's for sure.
So let's take one more answer from anybody who wants to take it.
So I just want to add one thing, and that's just Bitcoin was one of the first scarce digital goods, and that's what's made it so valuable. And ultimately, it's a scarcity that makes it valuable. There's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin. If you are lucky enough to buy one Bitcoin, that's like a huge thing. I think about the first iPhone sold only 16 million, and if you have like the very first original iPhone, like it's worth quite a bit of money. I tell you, Bitcoin is worth more. And if you think about 21 million Bitcoin and 320 million people in the United States, even that's mind-blowing. How massive the potential is. I mean, there's just not enough Bitcoin to go around. So that's what's going to keep it valuable for a long time, I think.
Right. Okay. So time is short. So unfortunately, we have to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with us, and thank you for our panelists. It was most enlightening. It was very interesting, exciting. I truly loved it, and thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Check.
Let's get a group photo. Yeah.